Welcome to the week that was, but we mostly wish it wasn't, for the week ending October 31st, 2025. This is a weekly roundup of the highlights and lowlights of campus anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. This week I had about 45 stories to choose from. If something's happening in your neck of the woods, please be sure to let me know. I'm your host, Andrew Pessin. I am a professor. Please don't hate me. For more about me and my work, visit andrewpessin.com. For all the details of today's stories and loads more stories, please follow me on X at Andrew Pessin. There were some important pieces published this week. Stop Anti-Semitism published their 2024 college report, and the news, of course, is not good. Uh, Anti-Semitic incidents on campuses rose 180% in September as classes resumed for the academic year. This, of course, follows a record-breaking year last year for anti-Semitic activity on campuses, which saw an increase in incidents by about 3,000% from the year preceding the October 7th massacre. The Washington Free Beacon this week published a report noting that several university leaders now believe that the anti-Israel campus movement of the past couple of years wasn't purely grassroots, but was in fact coordinated and organized, including with contributions or perhaps direction from Iran. City Journal and the National Association of Scholars teamed up to produce a new way of ranking colleges and universities to compete with the more traditional methods, and their methods are more sensitive to free inquiry and anti-Semitism issues. Okay, getting to the news. We start with University of California, Berkeley. They're a Palestinian student group at the Berkeley Law School called the Palestine Advocacy Legal Assistance Project, issued a report claiming that the university violated federal civil rights law in the way they responded to the anti-Israel movements over the past couple of years. They cited several incidents, including the following: when the anti-Israel protesters blocked Sather Gate in early 2024, they faced, quote, daily harassment and sometimes physical violence, end quote, seemingly not noting that perhaps the problem was the fact that they had taken over a public pathway and were blocking and harassing others. They also cited a very well-publicized incident with the dean of the law school, Dean Chemerinsky, and his wife, who hosted a private dinner at their house for law students, and during which a Palestinian student grabbed the microphone and started spouting off about Palestine. They tried to get her to stop. The dean's wife apparently tried to take the microphone from her hands. The university later opened a civil rights investigation into the dean's wife's behavior on behalf of that student. But the current report now accused the dean of aiming to chill student protests through a statement that he made following that incident. Quote, he wrote that any similar disruptions would be reported to student conduct and noted that student conduct violations are reported to the Bar Association, a clear threat to protesters' ability to practice law after they graduate, end quote. Seemingly, these are law students who seem to believe that their free speech right includes the right to disrupt other people's private events. A bit of good news. University of California, San Diego, there we reported last week on a mandatory ethnic studies course there that was teaching that Israel commits sophicide, a new atrocity that involves somehow the intentional destruction of all forms of knowledge production of the Palestinians. Well, that course apparently is gone. The professor's profile has been removed from the university's ethnic studies department website, and her academic profile seems to have disappeared. The original syllabus has been taken offline, with it now displaying an error page. So it's at least gone dark or invisible. Hopefully that means that it was canceled. Harvard University has hired a new law school fellow who is urging people to be more anti-Zionist. They are paying $1,000 plus travel expenses and more to bring this far-left anti-Israel lawyer to serve as a, quote, Wasserstein fellow, end quote. I don't know the Wassersteins, but one wonders how they feel about their endowed fellowship being used for these purposes. This week, Jewish professors were hacked on the website academia.edu. Their pages were vandalized with pro-Palestinian propaganda and tagged by a group calling itself the Turkish Cyber Army. The messages included things like "Free Palestine" and other anti-Semitic messages, and it seems to be that it was specifically Jewish professors that were attacked. The U.S. Naval Academy, according to a report this week, that there is leadership-approved anti-Semitism being openly promoted at the Academy. During the last 9 months, efforts have been made to extinguish organized Jewish life there. Examples included the cancellation of Days of Remembrance observances, the removal of Jewish women's exhibits in the Jewish chapel, the removal of books on the Holocaust from the library, and discrimination against Jewish faculty and staff there. Further, the superintendent unilaterally made the decision to deny Jewish midshipmen permission to travel to and participate in a Jewish warrior weekend retreat. The report notes that just last weekend, the Officer of Christian Fellowship, the Catholic Midshipman Club, and the Baptist College Ministries were all given permission to attend their own respective religious retreats. At the University of Wisconsin, a Jewish student got some vile anti-Semitic emails, unclear from whom, accusing, for example, rabbis of building tunnels under synagogues, performing fellatio on babies, referring to synagogues as synagogues of Satan, praising Hitler for eliminating Jewish child brothels, accusing Jews of being guilty of every major political assassination of the past couple of centuries, and so on. At the University of Michigan, also Midwest, the Jewish Resource Center had their door kicked in by a student shouting, quote, "Fuck Israel, fuck the Jewish people," end quote. A search was underway to identify the person. There was some video of that. Um, in the United Kingdom, University College London, some very disgraceful scenes this past week. Literal mob scenes with keffiyeh masked thugs shouting, "Say it loud, say it clear, Zionists are not welcome here." The video is quite disturbing. They were blocking students from attending a camera event. Um, Moving to professional organizations. This week, the Association of American Law Schools. Their mailing list was used this week to circulate a proposal for a conference panel on, quote, whether to bring Israel to an end, end quote. There was no discussion of ending any other countries, of course. The K through 12 arena, busy as always. This week, Senator Bill Cassidy, a Republican of Louisiana, fired off a letter to American Federation of Teachers President Randi Weingarten that accused her powerful teachers union of fostering a culture of anti-Semitism that alienates Jewish members of the community. Several episodes were indicated, including an event organized by AFT Vice President Todd Wolfson, who also happens to be president of the now anti-Israel organization, the American Association of University Professors. Well, he organized a Scholasticide in Palestine webinar, another atrocity, now Scholasticide, last March that characterized anti-Israel protests on college campuses as anti-genocide speech. You know the protests, the ones that were openly supporting and calling for the genocide of the Jewish people. New Jersey, the teachers union there, K through 12 teachers union there, is hosting a workshop next week on teaching Palestine, and we know what they will be teaching about Palestine. Meanwhile, in New York City, K through 12 there, pro-Hamas activists, two pro-Hamas activists who have called to strike Tel Aviv and, quote, to destroy the illegitimate Zionist occupiers and all of their supporters. Well, these folks are now launching an initiative to form student chapters in dozens of New York City public high schools. They are working with the Muslim American Society Youth Center, and they've recently announced this initiative, which aims to host Islamic events at 50 New York City high schools. The group is also going to be partnering for the first time, they note, with Students for Justice in Palestine, the radical organization that just in the past couple of weeks called for death to all collaborators with Israel, supporting Hamas's recent campaign to murder hundreds of Gazans in Gaza. Meanwhile, in Virginia, two high schools there, the Thomas Jefferson High School and Langley High School, posted some very disturbing videos this week. It was the Muslim Student Association published what they called a promotional video reenacting hostage taking and even murder, complete with keffiyehs, kidnapping, throwing people, hooding people, throwing them into trunks, and hiding dead bodies, all of which seems to be glorifying Hamas terrorism. The shtick was that these were students who weren't going to come to the MSA meeting, but then they are taken hostage, thrown in the trunk, and threatened, and then they happily say that they will be attending. Much Jewish uproar about these videos. In Smithfield, Rhode Island, the mother of a Jewish football player told the Jewish Alliance that of Greater Rhode Island that 5 Smithfield football players, all seniors, trapped her son in a bathroom and sprayed him with Lysol while shouting anti-Jewish slurs. The school briefly suspended the perpetrators, but then within a couple of days reinstated them to much uproar, ongoing uproar in the Jewish community in Rhode Island. In the students openly endorsing violence category, Back in Virginia, the University of Virginia, the Anti-Semitism Research Center of the Combat Anti-Semitism Movement did a deep dive into the Students for Justice in Palestine Instagram over the past couple of years and documented numerous examples of open support of violence and terrorism, often cloaked in the euphemistic term resistance, of course, including posting just a couple of days after the October 7th massacre, decolonization is not a metaphor. So they're all in for what happened on October 7th. So, too, the University of Washington is allowing student groups to glorify terrorism, promoting a dangerous anti-Zionist movement, using campus networks to commemorate the Hamas's October 7th massacre as resistance. They held an event this past week called The Right to Resist, the Al-Aqsa Flood, and Armed Resistance, with the text saying, "Why do we commemorate the flood as a victory of Palestinian struggle and resistance?" So they also seem all in on October 7th. University of Glasgow student activists there published a magazine telling their readers it's time to join the student intifada, featuring an article supporting the necessity of armed resistance, including an event celebrating the October 7th massacre. To honor our beloved martyrs, we celebrate the glorious Al-Aqsa flood. In my day, students were not so keen on violence, as far as I recall. Some naughty professors this past week at Indiana University, an assistant professor of clinical pediatrics there has been spreading anti-Semitic blood libels, accusing Jews of organ theft. Her source, the Gaza government media, i.e. Hamas. And in Canada, at Toronto Metropolitan University, a professor there is facing some scrutiny after a series of social media posts multiply endorsing the phrase death to the IDF, as well as justifying the Nova massacre, asking who dances next to an open-air prison, rape denial as well. And finally, anti-Semitism off campus. New York City, a pretty horrific incident this past week. A visibly Jewish tourist from Jerusalem, 59-year-old man, suffered a brain bleed after being attacked in Midtown Manhattan. Video shows a man dressed in black asking him if he's Jewish, knocking off his yarmulke, stomping on it, then punching him in the face, forcing him to fall over backwards and hit his head. He was hospitalized at Mount Sinai with facial injuries and internal bleeding. The most disturbing part, perhaps, is as you look at this video, multiple people are just walking by, glancing, nobody stopping to help until finally, after several minutes, a superhero stepped up and pushed the attacker away. And in Skokie, Illinois, 5 Jewish kids were hunted, according to the report, and nobody was charged. On October 7th, the 2-year anniversary of the massacre, 5 Jewish boys, ages 12 to 14, were playing basketball. A mob of about 20 teens surrounded them, saying, "Are you Jewish?" They then opened fire with gel blasters, yelling, "Baby killers, we're going to kill you. We're going to get a real gun and kill you Jews." The boys ran away with injuries, with trauma. Skokie police, apparently, no arrests, no charges. They were just handed off to the Human Relations Commission for dialogue and workshops. One wonders if 5 black kids, say, were attacked for being black, whether the response would be the same, or 5 Muslim kids for being Muslim. But somehow, when it comes to Jews, anything goes. That's the news, unfortunately. Tune in next week to see what fresh horrors next week might bring. Again, I'm your host, Andrew Pessin at andrewpessin.com, hoping everyone can hold it together next week.